Alrighty, we thought it would be fun to share the story of how we ended up with 6 acres of land completely debt-free by the grace of God.
Sounds great now. We had no idea.
The roller coaster of the journey was crazy. So we, in 2018, towards the end of the year, we decided we wanted to do a homestead and that we wanted to do pasture-raised chickens. So we started looking for land.
On Zillow and on every online listing and we would drive random neighborhoods that we liked, looking for sale signs and things like that.
Yeah, and then the day after Christmas, we saw a piece of property, and then the day after Christmas, we saw a piece of property, 11 acres, for sale for 37,000?
39,000.
39,000, yes. 39,000. And so then the next day, Scott went and looked at it, and really liked it, went ahead and made the offer on it for 30,000.
30,000.
And I hadn't even seen it yet, but Scott really liked it, and I trusted him, so called, made the offer. So then the guy responded with 32,000, and we were like, awesome, we accept it. 11 acres for $32,000. Great. So then the next day I went with Scott to go look at the piece of land. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful property on rolling acres, and there was one thing that did kind of concern us because it said there was restrictions, but so many people told us, oh, no one listens to restrictions, who cares? So we're like, okay, who cares? Like,
gonna build a tiny house.
Yeah, our goal was to do a tiny house on it or a garage apartment on it, and we were like, great, we could do that on here. Well, so we've closed on the sale at the end of January 2019.
And we did that with a mortgage, so we put out 20% down and took out a mortgage with the bank.
A 10-year loan. And so our monthly payment was only $300 a month for the land, which was awesome. And
so we set up our garden on it, did a bunch of raised beds.
Yeah, so you can see our videos. We thought we were gonna build on it. Our goal was to get on the land by August. We pursued builders. We went ahead and started having a vegetable garden on the land by faith that we were gonna be able to live on it come August. And plan after plan after plan just kept falling through, and builders kept falling through, and
prices were exorbitant.
Builders could charge whatever they wanted for it. Our little garage apartment that we had designed with a builder, the builder did the whole architect, everything. It was like literally exactly what we wanted, and it came back to be $100,000 for a, was it 20 foot by 20 foot?
Pretty much.
Garage with an apartment above it. So that was crazy. Yeah. And it was really...
So then I started researching, like, maybe we should build our own...
Yeah, then Scott went on the journey of, like, I think I can build our own house. Well, meanwhile, we were trying to get around. We did have restrictions on the land, and we bought land on a lane, which that was where the restrictions became a problem, because...
all the other owners on the lane.
Yeah, and by lane, it was this private drive, is a better way to say it. And so each property owner had at least 5 acres. We had 11 acres. But the restrictions were for the entire private lane. And so if one of the neighbors think you're breaking the restrictions, they can take you to court. Yeah. And we didn't want to do that. We wanted to get along well with the people who had property around us, and so we tried our best to get around restrictions, and we just never felt peace about it. And then we were going back and forth of like, God, you led us on this journey, you opened the doors for us, we had money for the down payment, and it just feels so hard and so discouraging. And yeah, like a lot of like, did we
do the wrong thing, buy the wrong land?
Like, should we have waited?
Yeah.
Did we rush it? We didn't feel like we were rushing it at the time, but then looking back, it's like, did we rush into this? And we had never done this before. This was our first time ever. This was our first huge like investment.
And we battled with all those doubts, you know, like, oh man, did we make the wrong decision? Did we do the wrong thing? In July, we found ourselves getting on a Dave Ramsey kick and really going hard after all of our debt, paying off all of our debts except for this land mortgage. And we would always and ah whenever we were listening to Dave's podcast, because we're like, oh man, you know, it's an investment and it's going to be our home, and and ah. And he would always say, if you had the same amount of money on the table, would you buy this again? You know, so for instance, the loan we had out was for like $26,000. If we had $26,000 on the table in front of us, would we take it and buy this piece of land again? And we'd be like, yes, no. Like, we'd go through like phase of like, all right, let's just sell the whole thing. And then we'd go through phases of, but land's a good investment, hold on to it.
And we're gardening on it.
You know, and we're gardening on it. And then you get into this thing of like, well, you know, it'll be a good inheritance for our children, or it'll be a good investment property 10, 20 years down the road. Let's hold on to it. And fascinatingly enough, the solution that actually ended up coming out was when we were packing up we were leaving and felt God called us to another place. So we were like, let's sell the whole property is the kind of piece we got. It's like, let's sell the whole thing. Let's just sell
Close
it.
this season.
Close this season. But we had all of our garden stuff on the one plot that was like, we didn't have the time to get all of our things
well, it was
off of the
like
plot.
winter, so to move all that garden stuff is like a lot of work in the winter.
And we don't have a truck, and where were we going to put it?
Yes.
And blah, 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 blah.
Like our raised beds, things that we would want to move and keep.
So instead of selling the whole thing, we said to the real estate agent, let's just put up the one plot for sale and sell that. And we'll deal with this other one when we get back from South Africa. And he's like, well, it's probably not going to sell. It's in the middle of winter.
And the one lot was 5 acres. So 5 acres. We have a 5 acre, 3 acre, 3 acre.
Yeah.
That made up the 11 acres.
Yeah. So he's like, it's probably not going to sell. Like, just leave the whole thing till you come back from South Africa. And we're like, no, let's just put it up and see what happens. And so then he said, well, how much do you want to put it up for? And I was like, I think we prayed again and felt, what did we feel? Like 30, 29?
We felt 30. But he said for real estate reasons to put it up for 29, to make it so it's lower than 30.
Well, he actually said to put it up at 24.
Yeah, he said really low to begin with.
So we had 25 grand left on our mortgage. And so we thought, well, if we put it at 29, then we have some wiggle room. But when we sell it, we clean our whole mortgage. And we had 10 days before we left the country. And someone offered 22. And like in our hearts, we're like,
and it was
oh
literally like 6 days after we had posted this sale. And we were like, oh my gosh, someone already jumped on it. Like, what do? We weren't expecting someone to.
And are we being greedy? Like, should we just take the 22 and then we only have 3 grand left on our mortgage? Like, that's better than what it is now. And
we
so,
prayed about it again.
We felt
I felt like we heard Psalm 27, and at the end of Psalm 27, it says, wait upon the Lord. Again, I say wait upon the Lord. And we were like, it's a sign.
Yeah, so I called the real estate agent and I said, we're happy to wait. So.
And then in my mind, though, I was like, Psalm 27, okay, if they come back with something, like if they have a counter offer, we'll then counter them with 27,000.
And so that's what happened. They came back with 25, and then we said 27, and they accepted. And so we sold the whole thing in 10 days. Cancelled our mortgage and got like a couple $100, $1,000 over in cash. And we're like, wow, like that's really amazing. And so we were able to come to South Africa so we still have 6 acres. Debt-free, all we pay is the taxes on it, which is a couple $100 a year.
It was an amazing lesson, and it felt like it ended that season with our land well, because we went back and forth with our land throughout that whole year.
We didn't know what we were doing most of the time.
We didn't. And we were like, we thought we were following you, God. We were listening to you, and now
this is a disaster.
This is terrible. But it was so much fun now looking back that we're on the other side of
side,
it. We learned so much. We learned so much about gardening. We learned so much about buying land and what to look for. We will never buy land with restrictions again. We will never buy land that's on a private lane where you have to make decisions with your neighbors on what you can do and if you can have chickens. We also learned how big 11 acres is, and to start a homestead, you really don't need 11
our 3 acre
acres.
plot was perfect.
Yeah. And so we learned that. What else? This is fun to talk about the things that we
Did
learned.
I get pooped on?
What?
My forehead. Did I get pooped on?
No.
Okay, good.
I think when you buy anything for the first time, you have this mindset of this has to be our forever piece of property, or this has to be our forever home. And it's great to think of it in that way because you steward it really well, but also to hold it with hands wide open. With our land, we were always like, Lord, this is your land. You have blessed us with this piece of land. You've blessed us with the ability to buy it, and if at any time you want us to give this back, then we will do it. And I think because we had that mindset for the entire 12 months that we owned it, there was sadness. There's a lot of memories there, a lot of precious memories that we had there. That was a tool to get us to where we need it to be. Now, we're not even going to live in that area anymore. We're moving to another state when we get back. So that piece of land was a blessing for that season that we were in.
One of the things Dave always says is that the average home ownership length in America is 3 to 5 years. So every 3 to 5 years, someone will sell or change house. And it's like, whoa, that's crazy. But it's like, in our life, it's definitely been true. Almost every year, we've lived in a different place. And we obviously would love to settle down and do the boomer thing of staying in one place for 40, 50 years. But I think our mindset is we need to find that perfect place to spend the next 50 years. And then we end up overstressing, overthinking it. Whereas I think if we just say, all right, like, I've got peace about this place, and let's see where this goes. I think that was a big lesson for us in looking for property. And we'd all love big, huge acreages. But my ability to steward that is like, oh my gosh, like there's a huge learning process it's okay to have a small property to start with. And Joel Salatin always says he hasn't seen a farm that's full yet. Like there's always something else you can do on this piece of land. It's never full. And so that's just been a great encouragement to us now, because when we go back to Ohio, like land prices are astronomically higher than Kentucky. And so, trying to find land there is going to be a hugely different thing, but all the principles apply. Even
when you have no clue what you're doing, it's amazing how he will bless what you're doing. And we ended up making money off of
a mistake.
What we would have considered a mistake at the time.
Blessing of the Lord makes rich, and
adds no sorrow.
Adds no sorrow. Amen.